Good afternoon, Singles Connect community. Welcome back. This is our first episode for the year. It is 2025, guys. Can you believe it? We all made it to a brand new year. So, we have our host with everybody's here today. Everybody looks beautiful. The beautiful Dr. OJ is in the house. And then we also have Akan, the king, is also here. So we're all here. Everybody looks good. I'm livening everybody's color, and we're wearing hats today, guys.
Yeah,
Hats. We all
it's
decided
a
to do
hot
the
day.
hats. Trust me, we didn't plan it. It just happened. But I like the spontaneity of it.
Yeah.
Anyways, guys, we are so happy to be here and we're happy to bring another episode. And we're looking forward to a great year of recording, diving into awesome topics. We're here to help educate ourselves along with you guys, the community, and try to share our journey along with you guys as you guys share your journey with us. So, without further ado, today's topic that we're diving into is abstinence versus celibacy. And since this is January and it's always the beginning of a year and everybody set New Year's resolution, I'm sure we guys, plenty of people too, have dating goals and different things that they're trying to, whether, discipline themselves in or not, to each his own. But today we're going to dive into the topic, needless to say. So, without further ado, guys, welcome to the Singles Connect. And today's topic again is abstinence versus celibacy. And who wants to jumpstart off the conversation first?
I think abstinence is really, really good. Um, it's definitely the standard that we have to hold ourselves up to if we're saying that we're people of faith. But we know when it comes to being single and abstaining, it's definitely a dicey issue because it's like a left and right. There's no in between. It's like you're either in or you're out. And I know some people will say, well, I can be abstinent. Well, I used to think that abstinence only meant, and please feel free to correct me, if I'm not engaged in actual intercourse with a partner. Like I can do other things, but we're just not going to do that one thing. Is that abstinence? I'm sure there's so many people out there who also think the same way. If they're also like in the right space when it comes to abstinence.
Well, I guess I'll give my take. So, to me, abstinence is what you decide to, a sexual discipline you decide to practice that is, to me, kind of have like a religion, a tone to it versus abstinence. I think abstinence can be done in, if it's something you decide that, okay, I'm deciding that I'm going to be abstinent for this period of time in my life, not for any religious reasons or anything, or because maybe I don't have a partner at this time, I am going to be abstinent. So that's where my mind go when I think of the two words. That one has a religious beliefs behind it, or reasoning, and one is just you're doing it mainly maybe because you're not in a relationship right now, or it's just something, a discipline you decide you're going to do for whatever reasons. So
Okay.
that's what I think.
Okay. Well, I think, just like both of you said, I think abstinence is a thing of choice. I think there are reasons. I think abstinence is usually led by a reason, basically. I think for me, it's like when people say they abstain, like, why are you abstaining? What is, it has to be something. A lot of times, too, uh, for some of us a lot of us who are Christians, you know, that comes with religion. And so religion can be a reason, you can also like just fast, from being intimate with people or even with your partner, depending on your reason. You can also do that for health reasons, and I think the most reason that I think like that I think we would be more concerned with, especially here, is the mental, the moral and the mental reason for being abstinent, right? When you're not probably sure of the person you want to be with, or for some reason, but there has to be a reason that leads you to do that, and that's my take on on abstinence.
So with the celibacy, because that's why I think there's a difference, because the celibacy is you're celibate because you're unmarried, or as I said before, you don't have a partner at the time, at the moment. So that's the reason why you're on your celibacy journey, or it's just because this is something you decide to do at this point in your life. While the abstinence to me is the reasons are more, a little bit more restricted based on your religious beliefs as to why you decide that I'm going to be abstinent. So that's where I think there is a difference that comes in, because sometimes people are celibate or practicing celibacy because maybe you're divorced right now, you're not dating anyone right now, you lost your spouse at this present
So
time,
you don't have a
so you're
choice
not
right now.
engaging, not right, you're not engaging because you don't want to or there's no urge, is because you just
There's
don't
no
have
option.
anybody at this present moment that or a preferred options, because people can have options but don't have the options or the that they would like, maybe. So so that is it to me, because there's friends with benefits, there's different type of relationships now. There what do they call it? Not just the whole friends with benefits thing, and if you guys don't understand what that means, it's 2025. I think everybody does, but sometimes you have to clarify things so people know what it means. It just means it's a you have a friend that you come to some type of arrangement or agreement that whenever you guys feel the need or the urge and you're not in any committed relationship, you guys are going to pleasure each other. That's what the friends with benefit means. And then you have some people that don't have friends with benefits, but they go out and, pay for it if they have to, because that's also an option. It, so, and as I said, so the celibacy doesn't have to be for a long period of time. It can be just for whatever time frame you decide you want to do it. Some people decide that, hey, I'm going to do a fast, like during Ramadan. For the other religious spectrum. During Ramadan, they cannot. It's not only they have to watch their diet and the smoking, the drinking. They also cannot engage in sex, but it's just for that period of time. So as I said, it depends too on whatever religious beliefs you have. Some people practice the celibacy during that period of time too, for fasting or whatever the case may be. Which the abstinence, I think, to me is a lot more strict and stringent, because that is based upon I am not doing this until I get married. It doesn't have to do with I don't have anyone right now. It doesn't have anything to do with I am practicing Ramadan or I'm fasting, or it just means I don't have no spouse, so I am not engaging in this until I'm married.
So you're saying that, so there's a difference between celibacy and abstinence. So you
Yes,
choosing
there
to be
is.
celibate and you abstaining, isn't it one and the same? I mean, those
I think
words, we
I
interchange those words based on situation, right? Like when we're talking to kids and we're saying abstinence, practice abstinence, like we're telling little kids, like teenagers, young folks, don't engage
yeah.
in sexual activity and stuff like that. But then celibacy, at least from my own Yoruba, from my own understanding, is celibacy is when you make a conscious effort that you are choosing to not participate in this, regardless of whether or not you have a partner. Now, not a marriage partner like a
Correct.
boyfriend or significant other and things like that.
Correct.
That's why I wanted to clear that up, because I think that what Stacy is saying is that is abstinence. You not wanting to do that thing, even though you have the option, is abstinence. But what I would say is, in society of today,
Mm-hmm.
celibacy is painted as abstinence.
Yes.
Even when you go on the dating apps, they're like, I've been celibate for so long. You have to accept celibacy. I don't intend on indulging, and you have to accept celibacy, if not, out the door. Which is, I respect that, but I'm just saying, like, this is it's good for us to have these conversations, because in society right now, celibacy is actually seen as abstinence. Like I'm celibate. I just want to be. It's like going on a fast. They're like, I left my former relationship. I want to be celibate. I don't want to indulge with anybody. Don't put that as abstinence. While abstinence, I think more is like, okay, you're eventually going to be with someone and you're just abstaining from being with anyone now. It says, but I think like celibacy, the way that I get it from people is even when I do start dating, I'm telling you that I'm celibate.
Celibate.
I
I'm
haven't
not.
made up my
No.
mind yet. Right? Yeah. So maybe like really getting the clarification on this
Yeah.
definitions is also very important. Yeah.
And it's so funny that I never ever really thought about it as two different things. Because when I hear people say abstinence, celibacy, okay, now it's just like my brain is thinking, oh, you know what, you're right. Like, if we're talking about abstinence, someone is staying away from something for a specific period of time. But when someone says they're celibate, they're like, they are choosing to not be part of that emotional interaction for maybe forever. You know, like nuns are typically, I say air quotes, nuns are supposed to be celibate because that's their, it's like the vow of celibacy they take. Nuns and reverend fathers, they
Yeah.
take that vow of celibacy, like they're never going to be with a man or a woman and stuff like that. So that's the difference. But how does this really affect relationships? Like the kind of relationships that are being formed in the world today, and even in Christian relationships. Because I've heard a lot of Christians be like, okay, you're single, you're divorced, you've had children. Why would you say you're celibate? Why would you not want to have sex? I'm like, what's the big deal? It's not like you're going to become a virgin again. And I'm like, okay, I hear you, but that makes sense. And that's like people in the church, oh, that they're telling you those things. But I'm like, but that's a faith thing. But what do you think if someone who's supposed to be a Christian does not really subscribe to the celibacy or abstinence thing? Like, okay, we're gonna abstain from sex before marriage. Because if you're saying you're celibate and you're abstaining from sex before marriage, those are two different things, right?
They are, and thank you, Akan. I just realized I was mixing it up. Although in my head I do know the difference. I realized when I was explaining it, I was mixing it up. But yes, because the celibacy is what has to do with the whole religion thing. You're not doing it, you're doing it because religiously this is what you believe, and you don't believe in sex before marriage. Why abstinence is for whatever, as I said, for whatever reasons. It could be because you lost your spouse, you're a divorcee right now, or it's because you're in between relationships, or you're fasting right now, or you're practicing, says some religion for Ramadan. I know they can't engage in sex, they can't drink, they can't smoke, they have to have follow like a strict diet. So, but it is two different things. And for the nuns and the priests, because they have to take a vow of abstinence their whole life, I think, in order to practice becoming a priest, I think is what I read somewhere. But yeah, that's a part of their vow that they have to take, which why they can't have children either. So, but and I have heard that, Dr. Ojo, where they talk about like, oh, you have had kids before, so why you want to do this right now? Like, to me, people are allowed to change their minds about anything at any point in their life. Not because you were married before or you had children before, and you cannot decide that now, at this point in my life, I want to make this decision. And that's why now, too, I've even seen people say, I am both abstinent and celibate.
And celibate.
So they want to, I've heard women make that quote before because they want to let you know that I'm only not abstinent, I am celibate because I don't believe anymore in having sex before marriage. So they put the two together. So they let you know there's no gray areas going on in the relationship if they decide to get into, say, a relationship with somebody that probably doesn't have those type of belief system. And it's difficult to, because it's very important that you get involved in a relationship with a person too that has the same mindset as you, because a lot of people fumble in that area. I think it's probably maybe one of the most difficult part of navigating a relationship, especially if you're attracted to the person that you're with. And if in a long distance, I think make it a little bit easier. But when you're in close proximity and you're attracted to each other, I think it's very difficult to navigate, unless you just don't like each other and you're just, shooting the breeze. I don't know.
Yeah, it's very, very difficult to, and I know I've heard it say like, okay, if a man is, well, and I don't know, like, so this is, I feel some type of way about this. Like, it might be emotional or maybe true. So I've heard some preachers talk about the fact that, okay, a man who loves you, truly, truly loves you, and doesn't, that and wants to have sex with you does not really love you. Like,
I don't know about
like
that.
as far as like
I
like
think
I feel like it's just a way that I think African preachers took that to a whole nother level to say that just to make you feel like I'm now going to disqualify this guy because he's attracted to me and he wants to have sex. Yes, he might not necessarily believe in abstinence, but does that mean he doesn't love me or he loves me less because he doesn't believe in abstinence?
I
what do
don't think
you say,
so. I
Akan?
don't. I
From a
don't. I
man
don't think. I
perspective,
don't
what
think
do
that's
you
the
say?
case. Sorry, Stacy. Sorry to cut you off. You go ahead.
No, I was wanting to hear from you from a male perspective because my brain is already
Oh,
running.
okay.
Like, what do you think
No,
from
no,
a
no, no.
coming from
I
a
don't. I don't
male?
think that's the case. It's not about like. I don't think that has anything to do. I think sometimes when we, based on the things that are in society and community, and I think that's one of the things that I've been advocating for is we need to actually look at what actually makes us as human beings. The genetic makeup longs for intimacy, touch, emotional, needs. And so when someone comes out and says things like this, and I'm not pointing to anyone in particular, you have to, yes, it's okay to make decisions. But what I tell people is make these decisions after you've discovered that your genetic makeup allows you to go a certain way, because there's society has had a way of labeling people, as it's just like sometimes people say, oh, men like too much, a lot of men like sex, men like sex too much, and this is like no one is saying no. Is there a reason why you know the genetic makeup is like this? Now, just because you like to do sex or whatever, you have a choice, because you have to be able to make your reasons. Just because it rains, doesn't mean that excessive rain will not cause a flood. So obviously, that's where the human, you know, like being a human is a great thing, because now you can now control, but you cannot still ignore what actually makes that up. So for me, it's like I think there has to be reasons. There has to be reasons why you want to be, abstinent, and I think everybody has a right and like a decision to make to not want to be. I think it's just important to have that conversation and make it clear to whoever is around you, and or whoever you're getting with. I was watching something recently, and the guy was just saying like, a lot of people have a price to what they can do, or what they don't want to do. But I think a lot of times when people fall into that place where someone offers you a price and you did something you thought you could never do, is because you actually entertained it. So, for example, if you're not going to have sex with someone before you get married, and you're talking to somebody and they do not agree that there's not going to be sex before the marriage, even you got to know that if you're going forward, this is going to happen at some point. Versus saying, I talked to this person and they agreed, they said they've not agreed yet, but at some point I think they're going to get it. No, because so I think that's the tough part. And so for me, it's just with abstinence and with celibacy, there has to be a reason. And whoever else, because I think it takes two, whoever else is there has to understand, and if you actually meet someone who is on the same page with what you want to do, great, better. I think that's the only way that it works, in my opinion.
So is it a
I know
determining
you're
factor?
absolutely right.
Yeah, no, go on, Stacy.
No, go ahead, Dr. OJ.
My follow-up question to that would be, is it a determining factor? Is there a percentage or data that supports success rates in relationships that are celibate as opposed to those who are sexually active before getting into marriage? I'm sure there's some data out there that would
I
support,
don't
because
think
people advocate strongly for it.
I
They're like,
haven't.
oh, if sex is not in your relationship, you're setting yourself up. And it's like, your marriage is probably going to be better, yada, 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 and stuff like that. And I'm like, I'm wondering if there's actually a data set that shows, okay, couples who did not engage in sex before marriage, who were abstaining or celibate, had a more successful relationship and had a more fulfilling sexual life as opposed to the couples who did. Because when we're addressing this issue, we have to provide a balanced perspective. And then there would be people that will come at you like, what's the incentive for me to even, oh, I mean, I guess for me to agree to being celibate or abstaining, except for those who definitely have a very strong spiritual conviction. Yes. But for people who you're trying to educate them and say, well, we want to say, well, I mean, the right way to approach relationship is build a solid relationship, build other things, but leave that side out of it until you get into a certain season in your relationship, which is marriage. How do we really balance out the argument to say this is better for you or this is not better? Or is it just leaving people to make a decision for themselves?
I think, I don't, when it comes to the data, I think a lot of times I've tried to see where people have try to make it make sense. But I mean, from the data that I am aware of, it does not show that there's a success rate in a relationship when you do not engage in sexual. What has been shown though is that sex can cloud, or intimacy can cloud the judgment of whoever you're engaged with, because it brings out more of the emotions, right? So a lot of times, because of your makeup and how you feel, so whatever, like it sort of allowed it, like it dulls your ability or your need for you to vet whoever you're with. So for me, I think the data shows that it's better to take your time before you get there,
Yes.
not get there at all, but just take your time before you get there, because it sort of like helps you not your judgment not to be clouded while you're dealing with this person, because sex can really cloud emotions, and that can be dangerous sometimes. But
It's
like I'm saying, this data has shown a lot of people who engage very early in sex in their relationships or in intimacy, and they have successful marriages that has gone for long. And this is what is even shocking. Let's even look at back in the day. A lot of folks, most of them engaged in intimacy before they married their wives. And I know this because I know the data to know that a lot of them gave birth to their first child shortly after their wedding, or before their, like, they were pregnant before their wedding. So I think, like you said, maybe we need to talk about that balance and really what it is.
Yeah, while we talk
So I
about
was looking down because
yeah, you were looking at something.
yeah, I was trying to see if there. I googled to see if there was any data. I didn't see anything came up. Most of what was pulling up was talking about the reason why people have sexless marriage. That's most of what the data that was
Oh,
pulling. Not that I could see a data between the the success rate of people that were celibate versus the people who were abstinent. It was more trying to steer me towards the reason why people have sexless marriage and the percentage of people in sexless marriage and how it's affecting their life.
I
But
would love to hear
to,
that data
I guess to
actually.
one point, huh?
I said that's
What's
an
that, Dr.
interesting
OJ?
data to share. I would love to hear what that data sounds like. The sexless marriage people.
What? Well, yes, because the reality of it is, what I was going to say to a point is, sex is a healthy part of relationship.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a beautiful thing when it's done in the right way. God knows the reason why He created it. I mean, our bodies are amazing, and especially when it comes together, is even more amazing. I think it's not just long gone are the days where sex was just seen just for procreation reasons, and it's also something that is very pleasurable. So, but I do think because of the world we live in and the society we live in, we come up with all of these different rules in a way to protect ourselves, and not just only protecting our heart, but protecting ourselves from diseases and all these other different things that are happening when you have multiple partners, and it's not like people are people of their word anymore, where you can trust something. Akan just brought up. Even if you're with somebody, you can trust that most likely you're going to end up down the altar with this person, even if you end up having the baby probably 3 months after the marriage. These days, there's no guarantee. Even if you wait till after the marriage, there still, to me, is no guarantee that this person is going to stay with you, right? Even then. So I think it's just about people making up their own mind of what is right for them and how they want to live their life and deciding what disciplines that they want to practice. And I think everybody has to just give room for everybody to grow in their own time and to figure it out however they want to figure it out and what works for them. Because is it a protective mechanism for a lot of people? Absolutely it is. Does it save you from the unwanted pregnancies, the worrying about diseases and this, that, and the third, and all of those other things? Yes, it does. But even in a marriage, there's still those things that you worry about, especially if you are, say, your husband or whoever goes out and cheat on you. I mean, how many women have you heard that part of the reason they have now Houston and Atlanta have the highest rate of what HIV cases? Why do you, especially among the African American community, and most of those women contracted the virus and they were with one partner. Because again, you, even if you're married, you still have to worry about, are you with somebody that actually have sexual discipline? Is this somebody that cares about not just your health but their health? So even if they're going out and doing something without you, are they being safe about it? So I still think that there risks across the board, doesn't matter which situation you find yourself in. It's about having that conversation and praying to God that you end up with the person that you're on the same page with, and that person respects you, respect themselves, and care about your life just like they care about their own. That's what I think it boils down to.
I like that because at the end of the day, right, the choice to be celibate for me would be a spiritual choice, a spiritual decision, not an emotional one. And really just understanding the impact of sex on not just the relationship, but on my life as a person. Because, you know, the truth of the matter is whether we want to accept it or not. I know some people say, oh, that's too spiritual and stuff like that. But spiritually, you realize that there's certain people that you will get with them, you know, and you will sleep with them and have sex with them, and you would honestly, if you're someone who is extremely self-aware, you'll be able to tell that there is a shift in your environment, the energy around you, things happening around you. And if you're going to kind of go back and check, like, what changed, what happened, and you might be able to trace it back to just that one encounter you had with this person. And you know, so it's not even about the diseases that people are transmitting, why celibacy and abstinence should be a practice, whether you choose it for spiritual reasons or even for social, economic, psychological reasons. You know, in America today, we're recording the highest rate of depression. People are depressed and they feel lonely. So it doesn't even matter how many people they end up sleeping with. They still go back home. They feel alone. They feel worthless. They feel like they just have this loneliness and this heaviness on them. And people are on prescriptive medication for depression. So why, if we can really sit down and think and look at the physiological effect of sex, having sex, you know, if we don't want to look at it from a spiritual angle, if we actually look at it from how it affects our lives, you know, how we're giving ourselves to different people, we would really rethink and reconsider that abstinence actually has more benefits to offer us, as whether you're, well, I guess single, not married, but when you're single, than actually being sexually active. You know, I watched a video, one guy, Prince, his name is Prince, I don't remember his last name, but he was talking about, you know, even for men, the energy that comes, that you expel from having sex is energy that most men give up. And in the area of that sacrifice is energy that they could be putting into other productive areas of their lives. So when a man is too sexually active or overly sexually active, especially when it's not in a marriage relationship, it's him just giving away energy that could be used to be productive, to be just really whatever it is that he needs to be as a man in society. So I think I definitely vote for celibacy and abstinence. Is it easy? Do we fall off the wagon from time to time? Let's be realistic. Yes. It's not the easiest thing. But definitely, is it doable? It's, yeah, it's very doable. It's extremely doable, especially, if you're of a certain age. I know that when I was in my 20s, sex was something I was kind of curious about, but I wasn't really too interested in it. And then in my 30s, after I started having kids, then it was like, okay, not really. It's kind of like an inconvenience at that time. Now kids are older, and then I'm single. I'm in my 40s, and I think I'm so extremely sexually interested. you know, yeah,
Well, you
that has been the
well, you
progression
know,
of my.
Dr. OJ, well, you know that 40s are the peak for women while it's not so much for men. That's the thing that men don't
Oh,
realize, that if they're smart, if they're really smart about it, hey, they're at the height in their teenage years, their
yeah.
20s, all of that. They start declining in their 30s. For us, we are getting better. It's like as they say,
I
the
was
older the
wondering
grapes,
about
the
that.
sweeter
I'm
the juice.
like,
That's basically
I'm
what it
telling
is for
you,
women. So
it is.
no, I am not playing. That is scientific. You can go look it up if you don't believe me.
I'm
So
telling you.
if men are smart, they're really they will enjoy their wives better in their 40s than they would in their 20s and 30s and all of that stuff,
Yeah.
because that's the time we have to deal with them, and then they have to deal with us the older we get. So, but anyways, I was just going to say to the other thing that you were talking about, regarding the whole, that giving each other's grace for whatever it is that we decide to do and what
Yes.
works, and is it doable? Yes. And I think too, for it's funny that you say that, right now in our society, in the American society or Western culture, it is one of the most loneliest, people are the most loneliest they have ever been, but yet still it's the most sexual they have ever been. Can you
Mm-hmm.
imagine that? Like the two things coexisting together, that doesn't make sense, which is the why I say to people that, a lot of us confuse sex with intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's part of a big problem, and that, the void that they're trying to fill in their lives, is bigger than sex, like for this moment, which is the why, we're the most sexual they have ever been. They're
Mm-hmm.
exploring more. There's so many different things you can think of. I mean, all the things from the toys to the erotic scene, movies, sex clubs, sex parties, open relationships, open marriages, you name it. All the things are there. But at the same time, as you said, we're the loneliest country you can think of, and people are committing suicide at a higher rate, which is to tell us that I think we are missing the mark between what sex really is and what intimacy is, because I think what a lot of them are seeking is actually intimacy and not really sex. I think they
Exactly.
confuse the two. And that's another topic and another podcast that I'm sure we can dive into, because that's another whole topic on itself. But I just had to point it out because you brought it up, and yeah.
No, but it's absolutely true, Stacy, because the reality of the matter is, I mean, sex is what it is. It is, and that's why I had to kind of vulnerably share my own timeline of just the evolution of my sexual whatever. You know, that's what it is. And if you look at it honestly, if you're not able to be abstinent and celibate, and you're not able to do without it, then you're obviously going to abuse it, if that makes sense. Because it's like saying, okay, you want your kids to have candy, you give them a little bit, but then they want it all the time, then that's out of control. But if they're able to at least regulate, and that's why we as parents try to regulate things for them, to say, okay, you only have one snack a day, right? And part of, even when you look at as a Christian or a person of faith, part of the thing is we do all of this fast, we have all the spiritual activities so that we can really discipline ourselves. I think abstinence, just like exercising, is a discipline that we also have to, if we shift our mindset about it, it's not that bad. It's kind of like a discipline, just being able to get up and exercise every day. Your body might not like it. Like 2 days ago, I did leg day. My legs were like, I was walking like an old woman the whole day. My legs were cramping. It was hurting. But then I'm like, okay, I got to get up the next day and do it, because I really want to have this lifestyle that I want to maintain. And I want my body to feel a certain way every time. So I do it again. So it's the same thing. If I'm not going to be celibate and not going to practice celibacy, how do I now then understand or trust myself if I am actually in a committed relationship? Because the way I look at it is, if I'm not able to be celibate, even though I'm with a partner or even though I'm by myself, if I'm in a marriage relationship, then I could easily not be faithful to my partner.
That's the question I see going around a lot
Because you can
on
actually be
social media.
attracted to anyone.
Right. So that's the question I see go around a lot. Like they say, it's if a man or a woman that has never practiced the discipline of abstinence, because we're not, I'm not talking about celibacy now, because celibacy, as I said before, is when you decide not to do it because you don't believe in sex before marriage.
Mm-hmm.
Abstinence is you're doing it for, say, in between relationships or divorcee or whatever it is, singleness, whatever the case is. So what I see floating around a lot, they say if a man or woman have never practiced abstinence in their life, they think that those people are more prone to cheating in relationships than a person that have practiced some type of abstinence discipline throughout their journey. Because what if, say, your wife get pregnant, and during that pregnancy time, there is a point in the pregnancy where she's probably cannot indulge in sex because it's uncomfortable, or she found herself ill for whatever, for men or for women, and you can't. There's no sex happening. Then are you going to go out and cheat on your spouse or mate or partner, or are you going to abandon that relationship and reject that person because that person is not able to fulfill a certain need in your life? So I see that go around a lot, and it does beg for food for thought, and it's a very good question. But I also think too that it's not impossible, even if someone has never practiced abstinence in their lives before. I think it also have to do with the mindset and the commitment that that person has made. Because I know people that I've met that have never practiced abstinence a day in their lives, but while they're in committed relationship, they stay committed to whoever that person they're with, whether they're married or they're in a relationship. They actually stay committed. So I don't, think that it's impossible, but I do see also the point that a lot of these relationship experts or talk show or other podcasts that you may see that bring that question up. Like, can you really do this if you've never practiced it at any point in your life?
Yeah, yeah, you're right. But there's some things that we talked about. I think Dr. Oji touched on that I wanna just address. Uh, so like I think you were talking about like the energy, like the thing where you be with someone where you go. I think we're like where you go with someone and you don't feel, maybe you feel more depressed or you don't feel better. So my take on that is that we're all walking energy packs, so we exchange energy every day we move forward. So I think a lot of times too, it's easier to use sex as an escape route, you know. But this is why when you do focus your energy and understand that whoever you're going to be with has the same energy and flows on the same energy frequency, there's more compatibility there. So I just wanted to address that point. Then there's another point that you talked about that I want to address, which is abstinence. Yes, it is done, but like I said, I think it should be for reasons, because someone mentioned science here. Now, the science is showing, I don't know for women, but for men, men who do not have regular sex are being shown to have prostate cancer. Matter of fact, there's an advocacy right now for consistent sex with men to be able to keep, because prostate cancer is on the rise. And contrary to popular culture, a lot of men are actually not getting sex. The ones who are at the top of the chain are the ones who are, who know what, but a large number, it's being seen that a large number of men aren't actually getting sex because the women are going for those on top of the chain. I'm not here to shake the table, but see, I always seek understanding. I'm
So,
Christian. I was raised, my parents, I was taught to abstain from sex. And I have facts, I have videos, I have testimonies to show you these things that I am saying when it comes to even masturbation, where it's like it's bad. It's now been known. The science is showing that if you are not having sex regularly as a man, say you're abstaining, you need to some sort find a way to bring up, because with a man, the balls get full. It's it's not it's causing more prostate cancer. So we have to also look at it from the scientific point. The moral point is it's nice, we can it's okay, and it's great, because that's what we're taught. But from the health standpoint, a healthy sexual life is actually important, which is why for me, I think I would advocate for us to teach our young ones the right thing and the right way to go. Because also back in the day, a lot of the older ones, they married at a younger age. But see, what we have now is that we have people getting way older, 34, 40s, without staying that long and abstaining for sex. It's not healthy. Health wise, the science has shown it is not great. So if we were to have someone who stayed through this thing and they couldn't find someone till that 40, it's not a great thing. You are at health of diseases. Like I said, I have these facts. I have to show you it's there. So that's a conversation that's there. Now, from the moral standpoint, like I said, that's what it is. So I'm not very sure, but I know for men, for sure, you are at a higher risk of prostate cancer if you are not consistently having sex, especially when you start getting to your 20, 25, 26 to your 30s. So maybe really addressing this idea of being able to date properly, being able to vet properly, doing it the right way. And I think to Stacey's point as well, I also believe not abstaining from sex, all it takes is commitment and discipline. Now, this is my thing. If you were not disciplined in other things in your life, whether it was your body, whether it was your work, whether it was your morals, you're not going to be disciplined when it comes to sex. And
True.
even when it does comes to sex, you have to make a commitment. The key word there is it's not easy. It's so like I don't know. I think a lot of times people like to quote this thing. I'm a man. It's not easy. Do you know why it's not easy? Because the first thing that it takes that thing for a man to move to want to try different women is nature. It's just men, we're visual beings. You see a woman comes in, sometimes it's not your eyes, it's already the D is already thinking. So it's not easy. So it's now a commitment. But what I'm saying is when the man commits, knowing he knows the value of where he is, he knows why he chose this direction, this road, this woman to embody and says, this is not what I'm doing, then that commitment and that dedication shuts out those senses, puts them down. Of course, you'll be tested from time to time, but that's what it is. And if we're going to be honest, that's what everything about life is about. Everybody has accomplished great things. Even you out here, even Dr. OJ, I'm sure there are a lot of things you have to hold yourself back from to be able to strive. So it's commitment and all of that. So I don't feel like it's really dictated by those things. So I think also, sending this right messaging and really letting us, because we have to know like what are the implications of being abstinent. You go deep in these conversations and we can have another round of this. They're dangerous for being abstinent too long from sex.
So we can't
And
just yeah. And
of
that's
I
why
was
I
course.
say
very,
we
I was
have to have a
educated just
balance.
now.
That's why I say we have to have
Akan,
a
you're gonna
balanced
have to share those
conversation.
stats because
No, no, no. I know
yes, I
about
need
what
to
I
post them
can.
on
I'm
our
very
IG
familiar.
page.
I'm very familiar with what he's talking about. I know about that and I've heard about the data and stuff like that. But then I'm looking at it like, okay, if not having sex for men causes prostate cancer and someone else is saying, okay, the energy is taking them away from being focused and all that. Okay. And I heard also, and also it's not even a herd or whatever, just physiological facts from health professionals. Masturbation could lead to erectile dysfunction. And I'm like, okay, so, how do we now find a balance in all of these things?
Right.
And what I just also learned the other day to Dr. OJ, I never knew this, and and I'm in my early 40s. I just realized, just like how they call, and excuse me, guys, for any young people that are not of age, they call it blue balls. I don't know the what do you call it, the medical word for it. Apparently the same thing happened to women. There's another name for it for us. I haven't quite dive into the research yet because I just saw it on a OBGYN that was talking to men about you know when they're talking about need to stop blaming women for having okay, I'm just gonna say she was talking about men needing to stop blaming women for having like odors and whatever it is, and trying to educate the men that most of the times if your female partner has any type of body odor, it's probably coming from you. So she was given, a whole bunch of things that men don't put into consideration of how many bacteria that are on the penis that they pass on to their and trying to educate them the different hormonal changes that can cause certain issue. So that's when she brought it up that there is actually for women too, if we become aroused and we don't engage in sex, that something happens to us that happens to them too. So like the same things that are happening to both people. But I guess none, all of us are not educated enough on each other's body. Neither one of us is giving each other any grace, is what I took from watching that whole thing that she was educating everybody about, which is what I'm understanding right now from Akan's little spill about. So yeah, I guess I have
No,
to give
it's
y'all more
not a
grace.
little
I didn't,
spill. It's
even
a
though I
real
do know that
fact.
there's a difference between sexual appetite between men and women. I do understand that, and sometimes men are demonized for having a more sexual appetite than us, especially in their 20s and whatnot. And I think it's because as he said, we're living in different times, and some of them are not taught that, hey, I know you have this great sexual appetite, but there are also disciplines that goes along with it and responsibility. I think it's about educating so it doesn't get out of control, because you can become addicted
Yeah.
to something too, which
Yeah.
is where I think where Dr. Oji's point was going of losing focus, and you're not, and the whole energy thing. I think it's less about the energy as it is about you lose focus in all other areas of your life, and then it kind of takes over, just like alcohol, drugs, gambling, partying. I think it's the same, just like any other addiction that you might fall prey to. So that's what I wanted to add. That I think it can go either way.
Yeah, you're right. It's just being able to find this balance is just important. And for us, because just like we're on here on Since Connect, the idea is to really educate ourselves. And for me, I just don't, because I know, I like I said, spiritually, that's also my moral bring up, and that's what I stand for. But I've had to, I've known that educating yourself and really finding understanding as to what's going on is so important. And with a lot going on in the world, men's health, and I'm just really understanding the science of, like, so for me it's just like when you see a pattern happening, there has to be a reason. And I'm just like, what is the reason why it's like men are this way, or what is the reason why people say women are this way? And i'm I'm really, really motivated to find out the science behind that. But like I said, I have found that in terms of, like, it is more healthy for an individual. In fact, I feel like the word abstinence, honestly, whenever it's said, it comes to me when it comes to being with multiple sexual partners. And I think that can be one of the problems that we have in the world today. That I don't support. And that I think is the problem. And that I think is also causing more challenges in society, because then we're having, the different STD spreading around, we're having issues, even trust issues and all of that. So I think for me, abstinence a lot of times, I think for that is that discipline is a lot, because we have so many single people now, and there's a tendency to have multiple sexual partners. And I do not, like, I don't think that's healthy to have multiple sexual partners. So, and I think it's best you wait and be with the person who you're meant for, whether it's during marriage or before marriage. But the thing that we are dealing with now is this thing of multiple sexual partners, which I think this is what abstinence has to play a huge role, you know. And so that I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, so let me just say, is there a difference between having multiple sexual partners at once? I'm sure there is, or having multiple sexual partners because you're going from one relationship to the next relationship to the next relationship.
No, multiple sexual partners because you're having casual sex.
Oh,
Is having
casual
casual sex
sex.
with different.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
so you're
really a
having.
thing.
Yeah, it's huge now. it's like it's huge. Like casual sex is so much in the culture right now.
Well, and also too, Dr. OJ, imagine that there are apps too that you can act, there are apps that are just specifically for just you going to find somebody just to have sex with. It's just like how you have dating apps. There's apps that are just for that, where people literally just go on there just to find somebody to hook up with. And everybody know that's what the app is for. That's what we're doing here. Yeah, people, yeah. So again, I think, even what is it, back in the 90s, early 2000 too, there was a great push on abstinence in the community, safe sex, all of that type of stuff, because, again, the society started changing, cultural behavior started changing. A lot of things were being perpetuated through media, magazine, and music. So then you had to kind of they started shifting the way they were doing things because sexual diseases and things were on the rise. We went through the whole AIDS and HIV epidemic, and so I mean now it's to the point where people are no longer dying from it because medication have caused them to live a more prolonged life and healthier life. However, it's still a stigma. Nobody wants to have that conversation or to still be infected with a disease that you can't get rid of, and no matter how much medication can sustain your life. So I think it's just about people being responsible with their bodies, to me, and just making healthy choices for yourself in the lifestyle that you choose to live, whichever way you decide to go, whether you decide to be abstinent or celibate.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. So either way, for or against, I don't want to say you're right or you're wrong because we can't really say, just like men can have prostate cancer if they don't have sex. So we cannot say men be abstinent. But yeah, whatever lifestyle choice you choose, it's just stand by it and do it well. I mean, don't do multiple sex partners well. That would be wrong.
Oh my gosh.
That would be wrong.
That is hilarious.
Don't try to do multiple sexual partners well. That would be wrong. In fact, that is just wrong on every angle, right? Spiritually, just physically, just morally, whatever you want to
Don't
call
do
it.
don't do, don't do multiple sex partners. Don't do one night stands. They are not good. They're
Uh,
not good for you.
it's wrong. Yeah, it's wrong.
I think we're all intelligent human beings here, and our audience are intelligent human beings. They know what you meant. We are not advocating for
No,
people
you
having
can't assume that
multiple
people know what you mean
sexual
anymore.
partners, and then
Stacy, you can't
no,
assume
we're
people
not.
know
We
what.
we are the Singles Connect community. We advocate for healthy behaviors, no matter which area you decided to go.
But in 2025, you cannot assume anything. I'm telling you. I'm telling you.
Well, it's
No, you're
true. That
right.
is true. You have to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
clear. You have to be
Yep.
clear,
All right,
or
guys.
at
It's
least
been
try
a
your best to be clear.
Yeah, exactly. It's been fun. This is our first episode, and we're excited. It was a great show, I believe. Until next time, see you guys on the next episode with Singles Connect podcast. Bye, guys.